The golden light of the evening sun stretched long shadows across the quiet neighborhood. As Officer James prepared to finish what seemed like a peaceful, uneventful shift, the steady hum of his patrol car almost lulled him into calm, until a piercing sound shattered the stillness. It was the cry of a child. Startled, James turned his head just in time to see a little girl, no older than 6, running toward his car. Her cheeks were streaked with tears, her pink dress wrinkled and dusty, and her small hands trembled as she tried to catch her breath. Her hair was messy, strands sticking to her wet cheeks, and when she finally found her voice, it broke through her sobs with desperate urgency. "Please follow me home," she pleaded. Something in her eyes stopped him cold. Fear mixed with fragile hope. This wasn't just a lost child. This was a cry for help, and every instinct inside James told him that he couldn't waste a single second. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, take a moment to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Heart-Touching Stories. Your support helps us keep bringing stories that remind the world that empathy still matters. James stepped out of the patrol car and gently knelt down to meet the little girl's gaze. "It's okay, sweetheart," he said softly. "I'm here to help." She didn't hesitate. She reached for his hand, tugging him forward with surprising strength for someone so small. Her pace was quick, her breathing shallow, and she kept glancing back to make sure he was still following. The deeper they went into the neighborhood, the heavier the silence became. The streets grew narrower, the houses older. Peeling paint, creaking fences, and windows dimmed by dust surrounded them. Something felt wrong, terribly wrong. Finally, they stopped in front of a small, worn-out house. The yard was overgrown, the front door hanging slightly open. The air felt heavy, as if holding its breath. The little girl's voice quivered as she pointed toward the doorway. "My mommy's inside, but she won't wake up." James' heart tightened. He pushed the door open carefully. Inside, the house was dim and cluttered. Empty food containers sat on the counter, bills were scattered across the table, and a faint smell of stale air filled the room. It looked like a home that had been holding on for too long. Following the girl's lead, James entered a small bedroom, and there she was. A young woman, barely in her 20s, lay motionless on the bed. Her skin was pale, her breathing weak and shallow. James rushed to her side and checked for a pulse. She was alive, but just barely. Without wasting a second, he called for an ambulance while keeping his voice calm for the little girl's sake. Her name was Emily. Through her quiet sobs, Emily explained that her mommy had been sick for days. She had tried to help. She even tried making soup, but couldn't reach the stove. When her mother stopped waking up, Emily finally ran outside to find help, and that's when she saw the police car. The paramedics arrived quickly. As they lifted Emily's mother onto a stretcher, the little girl clung tightly to James's uniform, refusing to let go. Her tiny voice trembled. "Please don't leave my mommy." James placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and promised, "I'll be right here, Emily. I promise." He kept that promise. He drove her to the hospital himself, holding her hand as they walked through the sterile hallways. The hours that followed were long and filled with worry. The smell of antiseptic hung in the air, and every ticking second felt like an eternity. Finally, a doctor emerged with an update. Emily's mother, Sarah, had collapsed from severe exhaustion, dehydration, and untreated pneumonia. She had been working multiple jobs, skipping meals, and neglecting her own health just to provide for her daughter. James listened silently, his heart heavy. He couldn't forget the sight of that cluttered house or the stack of unpaid bills. Sarah hadn't been lazy or careless. She had been trying, sacrificing everything for her child until her body simply couldn't keep going. Emily sat curled in a chair, hugging her knees, her wide eyes fixed on every nurse who passed by. James knelt beside her again and whispered, "She's safe now. You did the right thing, Emily. You saved your mommy." Over the next few days, James visited them often. Emily's smile slowly returned, her laughter filling the hospital halls. Sarah, still weak but healing, thanked him again and again, but James only shook his head. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "You did what any mother would do. Now it's our turn to help you." And he meant it. Quietly, James reached out to local charities, friends from the police department, and even community members. Within days, people began donating. Bags of groceries, clothing, household essentials, and funds to cover medical bills. By the time Sarah was discharged, she came home to find her house cleaned, repaired, and stocked with fresh food. The front yard had been trimmed, the broken fence mended, and a soft, "Welcome home" note pinned to her door. Tears streamed down her face as she held Emily close, whispering prayers of gratitude. James stood a few steps back, watching the reunion with a warmth in his chest that words couldn't describe. The story of Emily's bravery spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. People began to check on one another more often, lend a helping hand where they could, and remind themselves that sometimes, even the smallest cry for help deserves to be heard. Sarah eventually found a stable job that allowed her to spend more time with Emily. Their home became filled once again with laughter, light, and love. One quiet evening, as James drove past their street, he saw Emily playing in the yard while Sarah chatted happily with neighbors. The golden glow of sunset painted the scene, almost exactly as it had the day this all began. But this time it was peaceful in the best possible way. James smiled softly. This wasn't just about one rescue, it was about hope, about the power of compassion, about how one small, trembling voice could awaken kindness in an entire community. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Heart-Touching Stories.